Bailey was paralyzed and unable to move her rear legs. All veterinarians had given up on her, and her days were numbered until an 8-year-old girl found something remarkable in her own backyard. And what she found not only saved Bailey's. Everyone was left stunned by life. What could a youngster possibly discover that professionals had overlooked? Let's discover in the backyard of a little house. The sun was sinking over the peaceful Maplewood suburbs, illuminating the sky with pink and gold hues. Emily, who was only 8 years old, was sitting cross-legged on the lawn in the blue house, humming quietly to herself. A talent for recognizing the remarkable in the commonplace, but modest things, a manner of perceiving things that others missed. Did she realize that night that she was going to make a difference in someone's life inside the Bailey home? On a cushioned bed, a golden retriever with a once vibrant spirit lay still. She had been paralyzed from the waist down after a bizarre accident weeks prior, and the veterinarians had tried every medicine. Bailey's physical therapy and various treatments didn't work. The devastating decision to put her down hung over Emily's family as her illness worsened. Parents with sorrowful expressions murmured quietly as they attempted to protect their daughter from the inevitable. But Emily wasn't prepared to part with Bailey, since she was more than just a pet. She was family. Recalled how Bailey used to chase her around the house or meet her at the entrance with his tail wagging wildly. She couldn't fathom her life without her faithful friend, who she was determined to spend as much time as possible in her yard on summer afternoons. Emily had started spending as much time as she could with Bailey, talking to her, singing her favorite lullaby, and reading her books. Emily's eyes fell on something as she strolled into the backyard that evening, as though Bailey could comprehend every word. Unexpectedly dropped a tiny metallic object close to the garden, partially hidden in the dirt, and as her interest grew, she dug and found an ancient gadget that appeared. Dusty, with protruding cables and knobs that didn't make sense. It looked like it belonged in a science fiction film. Yet Emily felt a strange tug, like though something was calling to her, but she didn't know what it was. Bailey's legs moved more visibly this time, suggesting that this finding would be the key to preserving his life. Emily's pulse leaped as the machine buzzed steadily, but her grandfather held up a hand to warn her to be patient. "This is only," Kiddo remarked softly at the beginning. "We need to take things slowly." Emily nodded. Her excitement was momentarily muted, but when she moved her grandfather, it indicated that everything was going well. Her grandfather hesitated. "Yes, it's encouraging, but there's still more work to be done because one gadget can't do everything. Bailey will require time, effort, and a great deal of care to regain her strength because her muscles are weak." Emily knelt next to Bailey, who gazed up at her with weary but trusting eyes. "We'll be there for you, Bailey, no matter how long it takes," she assured the family, caressing the dog's fur, that it would convert the living. Furniture was pushed aside, blankets were set out, and Emily entered a temporary rehabilitation center, constructed a progress wall to monitor Bailey's advancements, and her grandfather installed a pulley system to supplement the apparatus so that Bailey's legs may be softly supported during the initial few days were difficult. Bailey found it difficult to raise her legs, and her movements were hesitant and unsteady she would occasionally whimper quietly, her frustration obvious, but Emily remained by her side, comforting her with gentle words, and Bailey murmured, "Treats, you can succeed." She took one step at a time, but not. Emily's excitement was shared by everyone in the family. However, late one evening, her father expressed concerns when he and Emily's grandfather fiddled with the gadget, asking quietly, "Are we doing the right thing, Dad? What if we're giving Emily false?" I hope her grandfather is putting down his wrench because I've married the same person he acknowledged. But take a look at that girl. Greater perseverance than the majority of adults I know, and Bailey hasn't given up yet. Sometimes all you need to keep moving forward is optimism, but Emily stayed firm. She watched movies and learned exercises to try while researching dog rehabilitation techniques for hours. She even contacted a nearby veterinarian that specializes in canine therapy for Bailey, and they agreed to come and offer IDE. Advised the veterinarian further. Dr. Morales was pleased with Emily's dedication. "You've completed an amazing job thus far," she informed Emily on her initial visit. "This device is unique. I've never seen anything quite like it. Enjoy it." But in order to truly aid Bailey's recovery under Dr. Morales' supervision, we'll need to combine it with physical therapy. Emily started seeing Bailey for therapy every day. She stretched Bailey's muscles with gentle tension bands and encouraged activity in every session. And on some days, Bailey made tiny steps on other days, but she appeared too exhausted to attempt them, and the emotional toll started to burden on Emily one afternoon following a particularly challenging session in which Emily ran to her because Bailey wouldn't move. She cried in the room, tears flowing down her face, wondering what would happen if she never recovered. Her grandfather, who had come to see how she was doing, sat next to her and put his hand on her shoulder while she recovered. "Isn't a straight line, kiddo." He stated that although there will be obstacles, you're still making progress, Bailey. Emily brushed away her tears and nodded. "You're right, Grandpa. I can't give them what they need." Up on her the next day, Emily came back to Bailey's side with a newfound resolve, intending to make. Including Bailey's favorite games and toys and therapy sessions was enjoyable. She dangled a squeaky toy that was just out of reach. Emily erupted in applause as soon as Bailey lifted her paw a little, urging her to stretch in its direction. "Girl Bailey, you're incredible." Over time, the little triumphs added up to Bailey's. One day, Emily's legs became stronger and her motions more assured as she held out a. Emily gasped when Treat Bailey was able to get herself on her front paws. "Grandpa, Mom, Dad, hurry up. She's doing it for the family." Her hands are rushing to her lips. As they observed Bailey pee herself up for a few seconds, they hurried in their bewilderment before turning to joy. Emily gave her dog a strong hug before lowering herself again, crying this time. With pride, she whispered, "I knew you could do it." Dr. Morales was equally ecstatic on her subsequent visit, noting, "This is amazing progress. I think Bailey could walk again with the help of this device and regular therapy, but progress wasn't without difficulties. On some days, Bailey's legs appeared to weaken again, and the family became concerned that we're putting too much pressure on Emily. So her grandfather modified the gadget to make sure it offered just the appropriate level of assistance throughout it all. Emily's relationship with Bailey remained unwavering, deepening every day. One clear morning when the family assembled during Bailey's treatment session, something remarkable occurred. With Emily's support, Bailey was able to pull. She stood on her hands and knees in the room for the first time in months, erupted in applause, with tears of happiness pouring down everyone's faces. Bailey weakly wagged her tail, her eyes glistening with tenacity. Emily knelt next to her and put her arms over her neck, saying, "You're the world's bravest dog." Emily's heart grew as she whispered as Bailey stood for those brief minutes of victory. With pride, but her Bailey's legs were soon followed by a wave of worry. She shook noticeably, her strength failing her, and she fell gently onto the cushion. Emily hurried to her side and stroked her fur while wearing the support device's harness. "Performed fantastic, Bailey, and I'm really proud of you," Dr. Morales, who stayed to watch, squatting next to Bailey, her face solemn. "This is a huge milestone, Emily." She replied gently, "But we must exercise caution since pushing Bailey too much could result in difficulties." Emily nodded resolutely, to find a middle ground between advancing Bailey and giving her time to heal. But as the family talked about following that, a faint tension permeated the room, and Dr. Morales paused. "I need to tell you something," she continued, looking at Emily's parents. Emily's mother scowled. "What is it, doctor?" After hesitating, Dr. Morales explained, "I've been investigating cases comparable to Bailey's. The recovery is impressive, but there's a chance that we may be dealing with a problem that goes beyond physical therapy." Emily's father inquired about the possibility of a degenerative component to her spinal injury. Worry-filled tone, indicating that even if we assist Bailey in walking once more, there will still be It's unusual, but I've seen instances where dogs regain mobility just to lose it again, so there's a risk her disease could get worse over time. Emily's heart fell once more as she turned to face Bailey, who was sleeping soundly. She asked in a shaky voice, "What does that mean for Bailey?" As if oblivious to the significance of the exchange. Since she passed away, Morales stated, "We must be ready for the chance that her recovery may not be permanent, but it." Additionally, It signifies that we cannot give up since every stride Emily takes and every ounce of strength she acquires is still a win. Grandfather spoke steadily. We've traveled this far. Let's concentrate on the. Emily is making improvement, and despite the uncertainties, we will face whatever comes up in the future together. She spent the evening reading about incidents of dogs with comparable injuries since she didn't want a revelation to depress her. Tales of victories and difficulties. But one in particular drew her attention. A paraplegic service dog who was able to regain mobility by combining innovative therapy with advanced prosthetics. Emily's thoughts were racing about whether or not one dog could benefit from prosthetics. Why not Bailey? Emily went to her grandfather the following morning with her fresh concept. Grandpa, what if we mix the using a prosthetic or other support device that can assist her legs move more freely after her grandfather scratched his. Listen carefully, Emily, that's a big concept. We can't make it happen right away. I know Emily stated it. Unyielding resolve. But I believe it might work. Bailey's legs are attempting to move. She just needs a bit more assistance. Motivated by Emily's vision, her grandfather agreed to assist, and they started creating sketches for A. They enlisted the assistance of a lightweight, flexible brace that could support Bailey's legs while allowing for natural mobility. Of Alex, a local engineering student who was enthusiastic about robotics and accepted the task and kept Bailey enthusiastic and involved while the adults worked on the prototype. Constructed obstacle courses using toys and soft mats to encourage Bailey to crawl, stretch, and build muscle. A minor triumph, a tail wag, or a forward shuffle was hailed as a significant milestone as the weeks went by. Alex's design started to take shape, incorporating sensors that might. When Bailey's legs needed assistance, the device was tested to detect her motions and activate the braces to help. The first testing day was tense as they made numerous adjustments until they were certain it was ready. Bailey gently positioned herself in her harness as Alex installed the braces while the family gathered in the living room. Explained how they functioned, placing them on Bailey's legs, which should provide her with just enough assistance to walk a short distance. Emily crouched next to Bailey, holding her face tenderly. You've got this. It seemed odd to me at first, but I think she'll adjust fast. Bailey only took one step at a time as Alex turned on the braces. She paused at first, adjusting slightly as she gently aligned with Bailey's legs. To everyone's surprise, she took a hesitant step forward, and the room erupted as she tested the sensation. Emily cried as she celebrated, tears flowing down her cheeks. She truly accomplished it. Bailey's advancement was evident, but the future was still unclear. Everyone was silent as the possibility of her degenerative illness lingered in the background, reminder of how precarious her recuperation was. But as Bailey continued to move. After that, the family's optimism was restored, and Bailey's initial hesitant steps with the prototype braces turned into A. Bailey wobbled forward her tail, marking a turning point for everyone, and they all smiled with pride, wiggling cautiously excitedly as the crowd erupted with laughter, applause, and A. Emily's granddad gave Alex a pat on the back as the family celebrated the minor but important victory with a few tears. You've given Bailey a genuine chance, son, and this is amazing work. Alex blushed. It's only the beginning. As she gains strength, we'll need to continue adjusting the braces. But I'm proud but shy. Believe this is a good beginning. Dr. Morales, who accompanied them to the trial, gave Bailey a detailed examination as she walked. Although her gait is still uneven and she is greatly depending on the assistance she received, what matters most is that, with regular therapy and device modifications, she's making progress. But Emily knelt next to, giving her a treat. Bailey, you're incredible. Bailey, I knew you could pull it off. As the first excitement subsided, Bailey licked Emily's face, her eyes brimming with love and trust, focused on the difficulties that lay ahead. And Dr. Morales reminded them of the value of maintaining a healthy dose of optimism. This is a great step forward, but it will require a lot of patience, time, and effort if expectations are reasonable. Emily's mother nodded, looking grave, to gauge Bailey's potential. We're dedicated to this Bailey's family, and will stop at nothing to support her. That night, Emily sat. As she browsed through her phone on her bed, she saw recordings of other animals overcoming obstacles with the assistance of She was inspired by each story about cutting-edge technology and therapy, and she hopes Bailey won't just walk away. Once more, she believes she would flourish, and the weeks that followed were filled with Emily and her family's hectic schedule. Created a daily schedule that incorporated Bailey's treatment sessions, and they constructed tiny tunnels and ramps in. Emily led Bailey through each obstacle while cheering him on as they constructed a temporary rehabilitation course in the garden. Alex worked relentlessly to improve while encouraging her at every turn. The bracing after observing Bailey's motions, he came to the conclusion that softer cushioning would improve the design. He frequently brought his sketches to Emily's grandfather, who had a more responsive device to replicate her natural stride. Provided observations drawn on his years of experience with machinery. However, despite the advancements, there were times when frustration. Bailey was willing and cooperative on some days, but she fought the exercises on others. Emily was clearly exhausted and was struggling with her own feelings at those times. "What if this doesn't work?" told her mother one night, and her mother gave her a big hug. "You're doing everything you can, Bailey, my love." The most important thing is that the family wasn't alone in their journey after learning of Bailey's death. They know how much you adore her. As word of recovery spread throughout their small community, friends and neighbors quickly started dropping by to express their support. One day, Emily was taken aback when her teacher appeared at the door with a donation jar, and the students wanted to pitch in. Bailey explained that she was giving a container full of little cash and coins. Emily's eyes filled with tears, inspiring us all. "Thank you so much for this. It means a lot to us," and the community's support went beyond financial contributions. A local carpenter offered to construct a more robust rehabilitation program, and a veterinarian with expertise in physical therapy provided to support Bailey's sessions. And with every act of generosity, Emily saw her resolve increase as Bailey's development kept becoming better. Though slowly, she moved from wearing the braces for a few steps to crossing the yard without stopping. As her strength increased, she started to depend less on the harness that she had previously worn. One evening, Emily watched as the limp and lifeless wagged with growing fervor. Bailey came to her granddad and gently nudged a ball with her nose. "Do you think she'll ever run again? If anyone can figure out how to make it happen, it's you," the family's grandfather said with a smile and sparkling eyes. Tenacity and Bailey's increasing self-assurance prepared the ground for the subsequent significant discovery that would test their fortitude and reframe their perception of what was feasible. But for the time being, they relished the little triumphs. Each one is proof of the strength of love, willpower, and a community bound together by hope. Emily and her family were motivated by Bailey's advancements, but they were put to the test as new difficulties surfaced. Bailey became stronger and less dependent on the braces, but she began to get a CS on her legs as a result of that. As Emily was cleaning the harness one afternoon, she observed the equipment's continual friction. "Grandpa had a look at," she murmured, gently exposing the red spots on Bailey's thigh. "What should we do?" Her grandfather checked the sores. He scowled. "We need to change the padding and perhaps take her off of the braces for a few days," he remarked. Her rehabilitation could stall without the braces. Therefore, Dr. Morales was called to evaluate the issue. She acknowledged that the sores were not severe, but she suggested that she temporarily stop using the device on her skin. "It takes time to recover. Therefore, for the time being, let's concentrate on hydrotherapy and mild stretches." Stated that although Emily was discouraged by the back, she refused to allow it to stop Bailey's advancement with Alex's assistance. Created a new regimen that includes swimming exercises at a nearby lake. In addition to relieving Bailey's SS, the water in the lake offered her mild impact resistance, which helped her regain her strength. Bailey appeared to come to life as she paddled through the water with a resolve that made Emily grin. As she watched Bailey chase a flying toy, Emily reaffirmed her optimism that this might be exactly what she needs. Her vitality, but the brace break also exposed another issue. Bailey started favoring her front legs without the structured support, which put undue strain on them. Alex recognized this one. He noted that she was compensating as he watched her motions throughout the day. "If we don't take care of this right away, it could do long-term harm to his sketchbook." To better equally distribute Bailey's weight, Alex worked late into the night rebuilding the braces in his workshop. The new design also included adjustable straps and lightweight materials to promote comfort and decrease friction, enabled her rear legs to be better aligned, promoting a more natural gait. But Emily's struggles didn't end there. The family started to feel the financial burden of Bailey's rehabilitation because of the numerous specialized veterinary visits. One evening, Emily heard her parents talking about the growing expenses of therapy sessions and equipment. In an attempt to soothe her mother, managed father remarked, "We'll reduce some expenses and figure it out." Emily wanted to help since she loved Bailey and couldn't take the idea of her family struggling. With the help of her friends and neighbors, she planned a community event and came up with ideas for ways to earn money. A bake sale, activities, and an opportunity to meet Bailey, who had become something, were all part of Bailey's day at the park. On the day of the occasion, Bailey proudly stood beside a local hero. Children gathered to pet her as her new braces shone in the sunlight, and adults were astounded by her fortitude. The fundraiser was a huge success, bringing in enough cash to pay for Bailey's therapy for the upcoming months. As the neighborhood came together to support Bailey, Emily found herself thinking back on the stronger bonds her dog had forged. She told her mother one evening that the story wasn't just about her. She was bringing people together and demonstrating to them what's achievable if you persevere. In the meantime, and Alex's modified braces were prepared for testing on Bailey's skin. Bailey relocated after the family carefully fitted her with the new apparatus, and the gains were evident right away. Emily's heart grew as she saw Bailey trot more easily, and with the cushion preventing any more annoyance. "Check magnificent," Emily whispered, her tears flowing across the yard. "I'm amazed at how far she's come." The new braces were a game changer, but they also prepared the way for the next challenge is getting Bailey ready to walk unassisted. Dr. Morales stressed the significance of. Bailey reminded Emily that the braces are a tool, not a crutch, in order to strengthen her muscles and regain her confidence. "We want Bailey to become self-sufficient." So Emily and her family presented fresh obstacles in. As part of her training, Bailey was given agility obstacles to help her negotiate uneven ground and was rewarded with gifts and recognition for each minor triumph. In spite of the sacrifices and setbacks, Bailey's journey had developed into a beacon of hope for everyone who had followed Emily's tale, not just her family, and for Bailey's perseverance shone brighter every day as Emily came to understand that the difficulties they encountered simply made their victories more meaningful. Bailey's road to recovery was a test of her emotions as much as her physical abilities. The resilience of Emily's family and the ties they had with one another as Bailey's development proceeded had to make difficult choices on the extent to which they would go in order to provide her with the best opportunity at a complete recuperation. One evening, Emily and her grandfather watched Bailey and her new friend explore the yard while sitting on the porch. Braces. The scene was warmly illuminated by the golden light of sunset, but there was a lingering weight of unspoken worries. Emily broke the pause to say that she was doing better, but what if it wasn't enough? With a heavy sigh, her grandfather put a reassuring hand on Emily's shoulder and asked, "What if she never runs again? You've already given Bailey a life that she wouldn't have otherwise had. Whether she runs or not, what counts is that she's happy." Emily nodded, but her heart was still heavy because she wanted her puppy to feel free, not just happy. The idea of Bailey never fully recovering without braces or restrictions felt like a failure, even though, while the rest of the family struggled with the practical aspects of everything they had done. Despite being pleased with their daughter's commitment, Emily's parents started to wonder how much longer they might meet the emotional and financial expectations while having a private discussion in Emily's kitchen. "We've overextended ourselves," the father told her mother, adding that the fundraiser was helpful but not sufficient to cover everything forever. But eventually we must consider how realistic her mother appeared. Looking at Emily through the glass while she was playing with Bailey, I was torn about how to inform her that she had emptied her. Emily, oblivious to their conversation, threw a ball for Bailey, who cheered as the dog trotted after them. Even during her happy times, though, she couldn't get rid of the worry that her efforts would not be sufficient later that evening. Sat at her desk and started writing a letter while gazing at a blank piece of paper. Ask a national organization that specializes in animal rehabilitation, Dear Animal Advocates, for advice. I'm Emily, and my dog, Bailey, is the world's most courageous canine. Like a flood, The letter flowed from her, documenting every moment of Bailey's journey and every challenge they had surmounted. Sealed the envelope and concluded with a sincere plea for guidance, assistance, or even just encouragement. A week later, a parcel arrived at the house, and she felt a tiny glimmer of optimism return. A letter from the group congratulating Emily was found at the family's doorway. The box also included a donation to help pay for Bailey's continued care, as well as her perseverance and fortitude. This is incredible, a book on advanced canine rehabilitation procedures, and a note urging Emily to keep going. Emily's delight was infectious as she showed her parents the letter, and for the first time in weeks, her parents experienced a ray of hope because to Emily's and her family devoured the book, learning new activities and strategies to support Bailey. They found ways to enhancing coordination, strengthening the core, and even encouraging Bailey's brain activity through problem-solving games, but there were some obstacles along the way. One wet afternoon, Emily led Bailey through a novel activity, causing the dog to falter and yelp in agony. As she hurried to her side to check for injuries, Emily's heart fell. Bailey's braces were slightly twisted, making Emily uncomfortable. Tears filled her eyes, and I believed I was assisting her. Replied, "Mistakes happen." Emily and her grandfather, who had been observing from the porch, came to her side. Bailey Wag's braces were changed to ensure a more secure fit, but what matters is how we learn from them together. Her tale is though to encourage Emily, demonstrating her tenacity once more. The incident strengthened Emily's. Realizing the fine line between pushing Bailey and honoring her boundaries, she started to pay more attention. Mutual trust by paying attention to Bailey's indications and determining when to support and when to let her relax. The basis of their collaboration, deepening their relationship even further as the weeks went by and Bailey's development became indisputable. She started going on longer walks, her steps became more confident and steady, and her tail was continuously waving. Reflection of her increasing happiness and energy, as well as the lessons Emily and she had learned from the journey's emotional highs and lows. Family not only about tenacity, but also about the need of commemorating each minor triumph one night as. Emily looked to her parents and thanked them for believing in her, saying quietly, "I know," while Bailey lay by her side. Her mother gave her a hard hug, saying, "We believe in you because you believe in Bailey. This hasn't been easy. It is uncommon and valuable." And the family redoubled their efforts to get ready for the next stage of Bailey's journey with the knowledge that although the path ahead would still be difficult, it would be as full of opportunity and hope as Bailey's. As the healing process progressed and the stakes increased, the family's early victories offered hope but also knew Bailey's struggles that threatened to undo all their hard work were becoming better, but the way forward was. Emily and Bailey were out for their normal walk one clear autumn morning when they encountered a number of unforeseen challenges. Bailey had become stronger in the yard, and Emily smiled with confidence as she walked. Pride as she observed how easily her dog handled the difficult terrain. But as Bailey arrived at the edge of the, Emily hurried to the garden as her legs gave way and she collapsed on the ground, yelling. She cried as she kneeled by her pulse racing. "Bailey, are you okay?" she asked. Despite her feeble tail wagging, Bailey's eyes were filled with anxiety and confusion once Emily's grandfather heard the. She was doing so well, Emily murmured, and the commotion hurried over what had happened, flowing down her face, which I don't comprehend. They contacted Dr. Hartman and carefully took Bailey back inside. Had been supervising her treatment. The veterinarian showed up promptly and conducted a comprehensive check. It is most likely muscle exhaustion. Dr. Hartman clarified that although Bailey has made amazing strides, she is still regaining her strength from exerting herself too much. Emily acknowledged that even inadvertently can result in difficulties. Her mind was racing. "I should have known," she said. "I pushed her too far, doctor," with regret. Emily, setbacks are a part of the journey. What matters is how you handle them. Hartman put a comforting hand on her shoulder. Despite the veterinarian's advice to adjust, Emily couldn't get rid of the worry that Bailey's development may stall or possibly regress. She dedicated herself to learning new methods and studying films of dogs conquering. She was paralyzed and consulting online groups when she came upon a post that inspired in order to pique her interest. The post described a novel regenerative therapeutic procedure called Cutting Edge. Methods for repairing injured nerves was a costly and risky experimental process. But the testimonial showed that dogs who had previously been dismissed as hopeless were now playing, running, and thriving. At dinner that night, Emily suggested to her family that we try regenerative therapy for Bailey. Her parents exchanged uncertain looks as she asked in a voice full of cautious hope. Although Emily's father said it carefully, it seems unsafe and costly. Emily pulled up the testimonies on her iPad that show them films of dogs who have changed as a result of the treatment. However, I am aware that this is not a guarantee. The family spend the time together, but what if it succeeds? Bailey deserves a shot. Discussing for the next 2 days the notion that Emily's parents were conflicted between wanting to help her and being worried about. Despite the emotional and financial toll, Emily put herself into fundraising because she was determined to make the best course of action. She launched an internet campaign to share Bailey's story and solicit assistance. The video she produced with snippets of Bailey's development and her unflinching spirit, it immediately garnered popularity and money started to come flooding in, but so came the pressure of public scrutiny. Do you believe this is truly necessary? Read some. Emily was heartbroken by the vitriol, but found comfort in the idea that pets are better off being put out of there. Letters of encouragement and unwavering support from others. And Bailey's tale touched hearts everywhere. In the midst of the fundraising efforts in their little community, an unforeseen obstacle emerged. Bailey's condition started to. Although Plateau was still able to walk with help, her development stalled, and she seemed to be regressing on certain days. But Dr. Hartman assured the family that plateaus were common. Yet Emily found it difficult to accept it. One evening, she asked her grandfather, "What if this is as good as it gets?" And he gave her a look. Even though Emily has gentle wisdom, you can see how far she's come because Emily was comforted by your remarks, but she remained resolute in her resolve to continue. A week later, Emily's campaign achieved its objective with the help of a kind, anonymous donation, which paid the remaining expenses the family planned. Bailey's care at a discovered animal hospital under the supervision of regenerative therapy experts. Regardless of the outcome, Emily sat with Bailey in her room the night before the procedure, petting her fur. Bailey nuzzled her, and she said, "I'm so proud of you. You're my hero." With trust in her eyes, she seemed to know that the following day would mark a sea change, not only for her, but everyone. On the morning of Bailey's procedure, the whole family showed there with a mix of fear and hope that hovered in the air like a thick mist, and Emily held on to Bailey's leash as they entered the animal hospital. The hospital was state-of-the-art, with sleek walls and bright, clean surroundings, and parents and grandfather followed closely after. In sharp contrast to their home's rustic appeal, a veterinary technician welcomed them and guided. They were led to a consultation room where a tall woman named Dr. Caldwell, a regenerative treatment specialist, waited. Dr. Caldwell started speaking to the family with gentle eyes and a calm assurance that Bailey's story is motivational. Her perseverance is evidence of your commitment, and today we'll go on together. Dr. Caldwell described the procedure that describes in full how to take stem cells out of Bailey's bone marrow and inject them into her injured spinal cord to aid in its recovery. She didn't downplay the dangers, but instead convinced them that Bailey was a strong contender for success, but it never materializes. Emily murmured quietly, "Thank you. You gave us this opportunity, Emily." Bailey's tail waggled a little as she sensed the mood of everyone in the room. "You've got this, Bailey," she said, leaning down to give her a deep hug. "You're the bravest dog in the world, family." Emily paced back and forth while holding Bailey's favorite as they nervously waited in the lobby while the procedure was starting. Her grandfather was sitting close by, crocheting, and she was comforted by a tatty plush duck, discreetly a new pastime he had taken up to kill time and ease his anxiety after. After what seemed like a lifetime, Dr. Caldwell reappeared with a comforting grin. Bailey stated the following 3 weeks will be crucial as we track her reaction, and she tolerated the treatment flawlessly. The family felt a wave of relief, but Emily knew the trip was far from done. Bailey stayed in the hospital's rehabilitation unit for the following few days, receiving physical. Emily went to therapy daily to supplement the regenerative treatment, bringing Bailey her favorite snacks, and every time Emily entered the therapy room, Bailey's development was gradual but consistent as she told her stories about the farm. She observed minor adjustments, such as Bailey's tail wagging more vigorously, attempts to boost her confidence. The team was astounded by Emily's presence, and her tenacity seemed to support Bailey's development. One afternoon, Dr. Caldwell joined them as Emily sat on the floor next to Bailey. Crouching down and holding a clipboard full of notes, Emily added, "Bailey's recovery is remarkable. She's responding better than we expected. However, I must wonder what your secret is that you seem to carry with you." Emily grinned and stroked Bailey's fur, revealing something wonderful in her. Dr. Caldwell nodded thoughtfully, reminding her that she is loved and not alone. Never undervalue She added that sometimes the best therapy is the power of connection. The following day, the hospital invited Bailey's journey was documented by a local journalist who aimed to increase awareness about regenerative treatment and potential ability to change the lives of creatures like Bailey. At first, Emily was bashful about being the center of attention. This isn't just about Bailey, her grandfather continued, gently encouraging Emily. These days, it's about demonstrating to others what may happen when you think the journalist caught Bailey's unguarded moments. Her tentative first steps, her bobbing tail when Emily encouraged her, and the relationship that blossomed between them, and the post with the endearing pictures went viral, attracting animal. Soon after, messages from lovers all across the world who were motivated by an Oregon woman's account of her own paralyzed dog, Bailey's narrative. Our parent from Texas described how the post gave his family hope for their injured golden in a vehicle accident. Emily, the retriever, read every note with a renewed sense of purpose and thankfulness. In the meantime, as life on the farm progressed, Emily's grandfather was motivated by Bailey's journey. Started off helping to care for pets at a nearby animal shelter. Her parents put in a lot of effort to enlarge the barn with the intention of converting a portion of it into a rehabilitation facility for animals. Emily chose to harness her energy after receiving so much encouragement, passion into something greater, and with her family's support, she launched a community project named Bailey's. Hope that the project teamed with a program that offers resources and help to families with damaged pets, collaborating with veterinary professionals, therapists, and benefactors to increase access to regenerative therapy through Bailey's. With every milestone, strength increased while standing alone, taking a few steps, and playing. Meeting with Emily in the yard was hailed as a triumph. She had turned into a resilient role model who inspired everyone. One evening, as the sun sank below the horizon, Emily looked around her to perceive obstacles as chances for personal development. The only sound in the world was the soft ruffle of leaves and the breeze as Emily and Bailey sat on the porch, gazed into Bailey's eyes, which were full of the steadfast faith that had sustained them. "You're more than just Bailey, my best friend," said in a calm, emotional voice. "You're a miracle." Though every journey has its obstacles, Bailey's recovery appeared unstoppable, and the family was about to face their biggest one. But an unforeseen issue arose just as hope was about to blossom fully. Emily saw something strange on a chilly November morning that threatened to ruin everything. During her treatment sessions, Bailey, who had been becoming more self-assured, abruptly stopped in the middle of her stride and froze her ears. Emily whined softly as she tucked her tail between her knees and perked forward, instantly knelt next to her and asked, "What's wrong?" Emily's voice was worried, and she caressed. Despite Bailey's first attempts to soothe her, the dog would not move her back legs. Dr. Hartman, who had just entered the barn for his routine, whimpered again as she shivered a little. In a calm, yet anxious tone, Check-in hurried over to Leighton have a look. After a few anxious moments, he exhaled heavily as he closely examined Bailey, sliding his hands up her legs and back. A setback, stating that we will need to scale back her overexertion-related muscle strain or nerve pain. Emily's heart sunk when she was told that she was doing so well after receiving support for her therapy and having some tests done to rule out anything severe. Dr. Hartman put a comforting hand on her as her voice broke, asking how this could have happened. Emily, her shoulder problems are typical during recuperation. This doesn't mean Bailey won't continue to get better, but we must remain. The family was devastated by the news because they had been celebrating every little triumph for weeks, thinking that Bailey's. Although they knew she would eventually recover, uncertainty began to creep in. What if this was an indication that her progress had reached its limit? What if, as the days stretched into weeks, all of their efforts had been in vain? Emily attempted, but Bailey's normal spark seemed to fade, and she grew unwilling to participate in treatment. Everything to inspire her, including her favorite additional goodies and kind words of support. Toys, but it seemed that nothing helped. The once unstoppable duo now had to face a wall that felt unbeatable. Emily's annoyance increased one night during a particularly challenging session. She burst into the home with tears in her eyes. She sobbed and collapsed onto the couch, wondering what would happen if Bailey never walked again. Her grandfather was sitting next to her. "Do you remember?" he asked softly as he patted her back with weary hands. "Emily, Bailey has gone a long way because you never gave up on her, even though we thought she wouldn't make it." Emily's voice trembled as she said, "What if I'm hurting her by pushing too hard? What if I'm being selfish?" Grandfather's eyes were full of emotion as he continued, "Believing in someone you love isn't selfish, but sometimes." As Emily sat by Bailey's that evening, his comment stuck with her. "Love means listening, really listening to what they need." Bailey nuzzled as she whispered, "Am I pushing you too hard?" while side-stroking her fur. Her hand, her warm, trusting eyes, and Emily's realization that the journey was about their relationship and their unwavering love, not merely about achievements or advancements. Fuel their battle. Emily came up to Dr. Hartman the following day with a fresh idea. "Let's stand back," she replied. "For the time being, let's concentrate on." Dr. Hart agreed to make Bailey happy and comfortable, and the family changed their strategy from doing strenuous workouts. With Bailey, they spent more time just having fun. Emily read to her beneath the ancient oak tree and played soft games of tug-of-war and allowed her to go around the yard. Bailey's spirit gradually started to return. Then something remarkable occurred on a brisk winter's afternoon. Bailey abruptly halted and pricked her ears as they were strolling through the icy field behind the barn. Bailey made a cautious, unsupported step forward before Emily could react. Emily's voice was a mix of surprise and delight as she stood motionless while Bailey took one step after another. Emily's legs were unsteady but resolute, and she fell to her knees with tears running down her cheeks. "You did it," she said, giving Bailey a hug, "and you succeeded in doing so." Bailey's parents and grandfather who? Bailey wildly wagged her tail as she hurried over to observe from the porch as the cheers reverberated across the fields. With pride in her eyes, Dr. Hartman, who came a short while after, he spoke in astonishment at the rest and the emotional connection, not believing what he was witnessing. She was recovering. Bailey's perseverance, along with the crucial turning point that had arrived, has made all the difference. They had survived the worst times thanks to Emily's undying love. Yet as the family celebrated this amazing, however, they were aware that the real test of Bailey's recuperation and their relationship was still ahead. Hope returned to the family after Bailey's surprise breakthrough, but Dr. Hartman advised them not to get ahead of themselves. "This is a significant occasion," he added, "but Bailey's body still requires time to regain her strength, and we must make sure that her improvement is long-lasting." Emily took his advice to heart, but she experienced a renewed resolve that if Bailey had progressed this far, their potential was limitless. The family came together to support Bailey and carried out a balanced strategy that included light therapy sessions and lots of time for play and relaxation. The barn was bustling with activity, and neighbors and friends came to observe Bailey's development and offer their assistance. Although not everyone had faith in Bailey's complete recuperation, one morning when Emily was in the yard working with Bailey when a neighbor named Mr. Harper showed up. He was a seasoned dog trainer who was well known for his direct thoughts. "Emily," he started off with a hesitant tone, "I've been monitoring Bailey's trip, and although I respect your commitment, you should think about the long-term quality of her life. Dogs are resilient, but occasionally we must make difficult decisions. Emily's jaw tensed as she had heard this argument before, but it still hurt. Mr. Harper Bailey is demonstrating this every day, that she wishes to continue fighting, and I will not give up on her at this time. Mr. Harper et a. He answered, just be, with a flash of admiration on his face. I hope you're right. His advice to be cautious, not to allow your emotions to blind you to her limitations, stuck in Emily's head that night as she sat by. She had always trusted Bailey's strength, but was she pushing her too far with the pressure of doubt? Greatly on her, but after seeing Bailey's radiant eyes, she was reassured that this wasn't just about her hope. It was about Bailey's determination to succeed. The following day, Dr. Hartman showed up with an intriguing yet intimidating idea. I've been talking about Bailey's situation with several coworkers, and he clarified that there's a study for canine rehabilitation-specific advanced therapy equipment. Experimental, but it would greatly hasten her recuperation. Emily's parents exchanged worried looks and inquired, "What's the catch?" Dr. Hartman sighed. Although certain costs are covered by the trial, there is still a cost associated with the expensive and state-of-the-art technology. Significant cost. There are dangers, and success is not assured. Emily's stomach dropped. The family had already spent a lot of money on Bailey's treatment. How much more would it cost? Emily reluctantly inquired about the cost, and when Dr. Hartman identified the sum, Emily's heart fell. Additionally, it was a staggering sum that was well above her family's means. Emily nodded as her mother said softly, "We love Bailey as much as you do, but this is a lot to take on." Recognizing the reality of their scam worries, but still feeling that this was Bailey's best chance. That night, while she was fully recovered, she remained up thinking of ways to raise the money her grandfather had found her at the "What are you doing at the kitchen table?" surrounded by papers and an idea-filled notebook. He responded, "I'm trying to figure out how to pay for Bailey's treatment." And she replied, "There must be a way. You've always been a problem solver," her grandfather added with a gentle smile, "but keep in mind that you're not alone in this. Occasionally, individuals will surprise you by offering to help." The following morning, Emily went to her parents and suggested that they organize a fundraiser so that they could tell the community about Bailey's tale. People already care for her. They have been following her story. Perhaps they would like to help and beg for their support. Her grandfather argued that it's worth a shot because Bailey has influenced so many people, but her parents were hesitant. Over the course of the following week, the family put forth a great deal of effort to plan the event, so let's offer them an opportunity to give back. Create a website to tell Bailey's story, replete with images and updates, and use social media to disseminate it. Friends and neighbors offered their assistance by donating baked treats to local news outlets. The day of the fundraiser arrived bright and clear, and the barn was converted into a venue for crafts and services for a silent auction. In a lively event area with music, laughing, and the aroma of freshly baked goods, Bailey sat with pride at the. As guests arrived, Emily stood next to her, overcome by the sight of her tail wag. As the event progressed, the love and support that flooded in came in a. By the end of the day, the local company owner had not only met their goal to equal every dollar raised, but surpassed their objective, and Emily gave Bailey a close hug while crying. "Did it, girl?" she muttered. "Thanks to you. We're one step closer to having the money." Bailey's advanced therapy was started, and the new apparatus gave her the opportunity to practice walking with exact assistance. Each session presented a challenge as Bailey worked to gradually strengthen her muscles and improve her coordination, but she overcame each one with tenacity, her relationship with Emily becoming closer than ever, and the scene was set for Bailey's amazing adventure, an event that would sum up all they had battled for on the first day of Bailey's Advanced. As the new equipment was put up in the barn, therapy seemed like the start of a new chapter. A combination of, there was a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation because this was their opportunity, the result of weeks of hardship, and hope, but everyone was under a lot of pressure. The new system was sleek, but it imposed a complex framework. Bailey looked attentively at her nose, which was made to resemble natural motions while offering support when necessary. Emily stroked her fur and whispered, "You've got this, Bailey," as she twitched and sniffed the odd contraption. Bailey was carefully led into the harness by Dr. Hartman and the treatment team. It was a delicate procedure. Bailey maintained her composure while making sure she was comfortable and positioned her body correctly. After the setup was finished, Dr. Hartman spoke to Emily, whose calm look demonstrated his faith in her and the team. He claimed that WEC would begin with little assistance and progressively increase when she started to walk. "Are you?" Emily knelt next to Bile and nodded, her hands trembling a little. "We've come so far, girl. Just take it one step at a time," she said in a quiet but steady voice. When the crew turned on the device, the harness slowly raised, absorbing part of Bailey's initial weight. Uncertain, her legs shaking as she adapted to the strange feeling, the barn fell silent, the only sound the gentle "Come on, Bailey, Emily," with the sound of the machinery and the sporadic shuffling of the other animals' feet. Bailey hesitated, but he was advised to hold a treat just out of reach during a little while, then moved her front paw and then her rear paw, using the harness that just sufficient assistance to maintain her stability. But she had to exert all of the effort alone. A sigh of delight echoed through the room as Emily's mother whispered to Bailey as she took her first unassisted steps. She was truly doing it, as evidenced by the wonder in her voice. But just when hope was growing, Bailey. Emily stumbled, letting out a little whimper as her back legs gave way a little. Hurried forward, her heart racing. "It's okay, Bailey," she whispered in a calming voice. "Take a rest. You're doing fantastic." Dr. Hartman changed the harness to give Bailey some time to heal. "Normal," he continued, "but it's tiring work, so let's give her some time and try again." Emily knelt. She whispered, "You're the bravest dog I know," as Bailey held her tight. After taking a little break, Bailey appeared prepared to try again, and this time her steps were. She appeared to get stronger with each stride, her motions more deliberate and self-assured, and her tail waving slightly. Emily strolled next to her, seemingly aware of the support she was receiving from everyone, and she was always encouraging. "Bailey, you are incredible." The therapy session lasted into the afternoon, and every little accomplishment was greeted with applause, and by the conclusion of the day, Bailey had taken multiple independent steps and received tears from the family and others there. Everyone was in awe of this monumental accomplishment, but the real test came the following morning when Emily woke up early with excitement. After the heated workout, she opened the barn door to check on Bailey and discovered him standing on her. "Mom, Dad," Emily called her voice because of her bright eyes and fur posture, throbbing with excitement. But before long, she's standing alone, and her parents' emotions are a mixture of shock and disbelief. Expressing happiness, Dr. Hartman showed up soon after, his face beaming at what he saw. "Is amazing," he continued, closely examining Bailey, who is adjusting more quickly than I anticipated and whose muscles are. Emily chose to accept Bailey after she responded well and was inspired by her development. As Emily clipped on Bailey's leash, the yard was filled with the cool winter air for the first time since her accident. Bailey's ears perked up in response to Emily's greetings as the other dogs barked as they took her out into the open. Bailey took her first hesitant steps on the snowy, uneven surface at her side. Although the terrain made it difficult for her to balance, she persisted in her resolve. By the time they got back, she had explored the yard step by step, her tail bouncing with every new achievement. Bailey was worn out, but Emily was victorious and knelt next to her as they went to the barn, putting her arms around her faithful friend and saying, "You did it," in an emotional voice. "You're amazing." Bailey's trip had been lengthy and difficult, but at that point, it all seemed worthwhile. Progress demonstrated the strength of resiliency, love, and steadfast faith as Emily and Bailey sat together as the sun sank, bathing the barn in a golden glow, enjoying the day's silent victory. The culmination of their journey was just getting started, serving as a reminder that with bravery and assistance, even the impossibly difficult may be accomplished. The barn was excitement as Emily and her family got ready for Bailey's biggest test. But weeks had passed since her first successful steps, and now, with Dr. Hartman's help, they were prepared to test her ability to walk fully. Without assistance, the neighborhood had come together to see this event, with neighbors, friends, and even complete strangers following. When Bailey's journey arrived to demonstrate their support, there was a sense of unanimity in the air, and everyone was excited to celebrate the amazing relationship between a small child and her brave dog Emily. who knelt next to Bailey in the middle of the barn, petting her fur and whispering encouraging words. "You've come a long way, Bailey. No matter what happens today, you've already made us so proud," she replied quietly. Bailey waggled her tail, her eyes gleaming with resolve and trust, as though she recognized the seriousness of the result of weeks of dedication, love, and unwavering faith. Dr. Hartman took the stage to speak to the audience, saying that it's not just about physical healing, but also about the strength of hope, and the remarkable connection between people and animals that we are about to witness is truly miraculous. As Dr. Hartman and his staff meticulously took the last supports out of Bailey's therapy apparatus, the barn fell silent. "Come on, Bailey," Emily urged steadily as she stood a few steps away and held out her hand to her cherished friend. Bailey paused for a while, her legs shaking as she adjusted, ignoring the lump in her throat. The throng held their attention to the strange feeling of standing entirely unassisted. As she took her first unsteady step, and then another, the strain was evident. Cheers broke out as Bailey approached Emily, each stride more assured than the final tears that fell from Emily's eyes. "You did it." Bailey came over to her and nuzzled her palm as her tail was swinging wildly. The audience erupted in cheers as Emily sobbed and put her arms around Bailey. "You're incredible." Bailey stood tall and proud throughout the barn, her energy unwavering and her stance proud. It was a triumphant moment that demonstrated tenacity and the unbreakable bond of love. But Bailey wasn't done as if. Sensing the crowd's excitement, she turned to face the open barn doors and started to walk steadily outdoors. And deliberate, the audience watched as their enthusiasm grew as Bailey spent the first time in the yard exploring. As Bailey sniffed the fresh air and embraced Emily, Emily remained close, her heart swelled with pride. Tail at the familiar sights, noises, and encouragement of the other dogs, as well as the horses, which seemed to give a sign of approval from their paddocks. But then something remarkable occurred. Bailey noticed a bunch of. Her ears pricked up as she saw kids playing close to the yard's edge, and she immediately trotted in their direction. When Bailey returned to their game, the kids yelled with joy. Her tail was bouncing, and her movements were lively. Emily's father spoke in a shaky voice. "She's really back." Emily couldn't help but smile while she watched. The audience shouted and laughed as Bailey ran and played her contagious joy. As the sun sank, the sight of a dog who had overcome the odds and taken back her life brightened emotions. Emily crouched next to Bailey and gave her a deep hug, glowing over the yard. I promise we'll keep writing this story," she whispered. "Miracle Bailey." Dr. Hartman approached him with a look of both pride and amazement. "According to him, Emily, you and Bailey have demonstrated to us what can happen when love and willpower unite, as seen by her recovery. It is not only a triumph for her, but also a sign of hope for everyone who has ever had to face the impossibility." That night, as Bailey's incredible journey was honored by the community, and Emily thought back on how far they had come from what had begun as a time of. A tale of resiliency and hope had emerged from despair, serving as a reminder that miracles may happen even in the midst of hardship. Could happen. Bailey's journey was about more than just her. It was about the strength of community, the force of belief, and the enduring relationship between a girl and her dog as the sun sets. The party at the ranch started as the sky was painted in shades of pink and orange. Families and friends concluded by sharing stories and laughter, their spirits raised by the amazing victory they had seen. Emily sitting in the grass, close to Bailey, the two of them taking pleasure in some peace and quiet amid the happy conversation. With her head resting on Emily's lap and her eyes half closed in satisfaction, Bailey laid next to her, feeling the weight of their shared Emily journey settled over her not as a burden, but as evidence of all they had conquered together. "You've taught everyone here what it means to never give up, and I hope you understand how much you." Bailey's soft tail waving was her way of expressing, "I know nearby," which was cruel to all of us. Emily's parents and Dr. Hartman stood talking about the next stages in Bailey's treatment, even though she had made amazing improvement. But her road wasn't finished. She would still need to attend therapy sessions and face challenges. The future seemed full of possibilities now, and Emily's father came over and knelt down. "You've done something amazing, sweetheart," he murmured, resting a hand on her shoulder, "not only for Bailey. However, your faith in her served as a reminder to all of us of the value of holding on to hope." And Emily smiled as eyes gleaming, "Bailey put in all the effort. I just have faith in him." As the final visitors got ready to depart, her father remarked that belief was what made all the difference. Neighbors came up with a suggestion, saying that Bailey's tale should be told because there are so many. Emily's mother nodded thoughtfully, acknowledging that there are individuals out there who could be inspired by what she's accomplished. "Fantastic idea. Perhaps we could establish a website to share Bailey's experience and assist those going through comparable challenges." The notion, Emily felt a spark that she could see plainly. Other families are given hope by Bailey's narrative, which encourages them to have faith in their own abilities. Stated that in the weeks that followed Emily's family work, let's make sure her story is seen by as many people as possible. They collaborated to establish a blog and social media pages devoted to Bailey's journey, sharing images, videos, and the message included information about her recuperation and links for other pet owners dealing with comparable issues. People who had been moved by Bailey's tenacity and Emily's unshakable faith began to flood in messages. As families related their experiences, vets inquired about the techniques employed in Bailey's recuperation. Of their own pets conquering challenges, a network of hope was established, spurred by the relationship between a young child and her dog, followed by Emily and Bailey months later. When they went back to the veterinary office for a follow-up visit, Dr. Hartman smiled and said, "You've grown quite." He showed the celebs a veterinary magazine with Bailey on the front, with the heading, "Against All." Emily chuckled as she held up the story of a dog who refused to give up. Magazine to let Bailey know, "Look, Bailey, you're famous." Bailey gave her a gentle bark. As they walked out of the clinic, she waved her tail as though she recognized them. Emily was quite appreciative of how what had started as a moment of despair had changed into something amazing. Bailey was more than just her dog. She was also her inspiration, her collaborator, and the epitome of hope as they walked hand in hand and made their way home, prepared to face whatever difficulties arose. For if their journey had taught them anything, it was to love. With perseverance and a small amount of faith, anything was achievable, provided Bailey's. If you were moved by an incredible journey, please remember to subscribe to our channel for more motivational tales of perseverance and optimism. Click the like button and tell your friends about this video. Come celebrate the unbreakable relationship between people and their cherished animals with us as a community. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. Keep making a difference and sharing hope.